Paul and I are here doing the video in Harbor Grace this morning. A beautiful Sabbath morning. Over the last few days, we've witnessed the death of actress Betty White. I've been listening to some of the commentary from some of her friends and people who knew her. One of the things that comes through over and over is the fact that a lot of them say Betty wasn't afraid to die. Betty White herself said that she sort of learned that from her mother. Her mother's name was Tess. And Tess would often say when someone passed away, well, Betty, now they know the secret. And I've pondered that over the years myself. Whenever I've stood in a funeral home or at a graveside, and when I'm trying to find words of comfort and hope to bring to families, quite often the thought in my mind is, but they know now. They know. And there's sort of something within me that wishes, well, I wish I knew a little bit more so I could bring a little more hope and comfort. Paul, in that great chapter, that love chapter in 1 Corinthians 13, in chapter 12, Paul says that right now we only see through a glass darkly. And what Paul is sort of saying is that we only get a glimpse of what's beyond this. It's like looking through a frosted glass or an opaque glass. We see shadows now and then. But then Paul says there will come a time when we will know Jesus as he fully knows us. What lies beyond is this life is, I suppose, in many ways, as we know, a mystery. It's a secret. But now and then we do get glimpses, sort of little glimpses of something more. In Celtic spirituality, there's a name for that place. It's called thin places. It's the boundary where heaven meets earth. We sort of catch a glimpse of the divine. I love those times when I experience those thin places. They're rare, but I've experienced them in places like in worship, but not always. Sometimes in prayer, but not always. Sometimes looking at the stars on a starry night, but not always. And if there's any one place where perhaps I get that sense of the divine is right here. It's in a place like this. Paul and I do a lot of videos near the ocean, and when I come near the ocean, the roar of the waves, the water, the colors, well, it just does something inside of me. But it's not always a thin place as much as I believe that where I am now, that's coming to places like this, that's preparing me to meet Jesus in the common, ordinary, everyday. Those are the thin places I believe that Jesus is drawing us to. Is meet me in the common, everyday places where you are. That's thin places, Jesus style. A little story. Trudy and I were visiting downtown Toronto a number of years ago, visiting with some friends who do some street ministry and work on the streets and caring for the vulnerable and the broken and so on. And the hotel that we always stay in, and we've done it a number of times, is right across the road from Gateway, and that's a shelter that provides services for men who are on the streets and so on. And as often what we do is we leave our hotel and we walk across the street to a park, and we take our books and we read and so on, and we've had some amazing encounters there. Because what often happens is that men that stay at Gateway, they make their way across the road and into the park, and they hang out there during the day, and then they'll go back to the shelter during the night. Well, one particular day, we're sitting on our bench, just reading our books, and we watch a gentleman coming from Gateway across the road to the park, and he sits on a bench just across from us. And on that bench, there's a long stem rose. And we noticed the night before that, as we made our way up the street, that there was a big movie production taking place in the park. And I just assumed that the long stem rose was left there as a prop. Well, that gentleman came across the road, sat on that bench, right next to that long stem rose, but he paid no attention to it. As a matter of fact, he just sat on the bench and he looked into the ground. It was a little later, and just to my left, just up to the park a bit, I saw a young lady walking down the path, and I assumed she had come out of an office tower, and she had her laptop with her, and she had a little brown paper bag, and she was proceeding to eat her lunch. And to me, she looked rather sad. She was there alone eating her lunch that day. And there was no connection between her and the gentleman from Gateway. But then something beautiful happened. He stood up, picked up that rose, that long stem rose, walked up the path, and without any eye contact or any words, he presented that rose to that young lady, and he left, went back, sat down, and continued to look in the ground. She didn't look at him, but I watched her, and she took that rose and she was rolling it in her fingers, and there was a little smile on her face. And of all the thin places that I've ever experienced, wherever I've been, there was nothing greater than sensing heaven and earth connecting in that place. I felt the presence of Jesus like I've never experienced before. And friends, he's waiting for us to meet him in those places. This past week I've talked to lonely people who want someone to talk to them. I've experienced people who are going through difficult times with health. And I would challenge us today to push beyond ourselves, to reach out somewhere, perhaps somewhere we've never reached out before. Because these are challenging times and these are challenging days, and it's easy perhaps to isolate and to hold on to our own homes and our own selves. I encourage you to press beyond and perhaps go somewhere or talk to someone you haven't talked to in a long time, or someone, even a stranger. And you never know that Jesus is waiting there, and we don't go expecting to find a thin place, but you never know what's going to happen. Just like this place where Paul and I are experiencing this morning. This beautiful thin place out on the point here in Harbour Grace. Bless you, and may you have a wonderful week.
With arms stretched wide, I know you hear my cry. Speak to me now. Speak to me now. I surrender. I surrender. I want to know you. mountain